Is astrology a guide to aid us in mastering the universe? This is the Cosmic Community Podcast with Galactic Ambassador Stacey Dredd. Hey everyone, thanks for being tuned in to KPOV 88.9 FM, your high desert community radio in Bend, Oregon. Hope you're having a good day. This is Stacey Dredd, Galactic Ambassador in the Cosmic Community. That's our astrology program here Tuesdays 4:30 to 5 p.m., where we discuss the week's planetary and lunar influences, talk about how we can live within the cycles of the universe to create a more benevolent life for all. So thank you so much for making time and space in your day today to receive these messages. And if you need a playback, you can listen to the archive of this program at kpov.org on the Cosmic Community Astrology's show page. Can also follow along on YouTube and Facebook. That's the Cosmic Community Astrology. And it is another big week. Of course, we are moving through the eclipse portal, and we have the closing out of this eclipse cycle coming in this week. That's going to be in the form of the lunar eclipse and the full moon in Scorpio on May 5th. And we have recently had Pluto station retrograde on May 1st. And that is what we are looking at as far as the week being colored in. And so we'll discuss that. And just wanted to back up a little bit to last week. Say thanks again to my guest Whitney for coming in. She is from Women Waken. And if you'd like to follow along on what she's doing, that is a podcast on YouTube. Again, that's Women Waken. Thanks, Whitney, for all that you bring to the community and for, being interested. She's going to have her own show here. She's going to become a DJ here on KPOV. So looking forward to what she is going to bring. And also want to say thanks to everybody that supported us during our fund drive, but it is not over. That's right. We could not even say goodbye to the fun, to all the fun yet. And so we've extended the spring fund drive until May 12th. So if you went all the way through the drive and feel as though you weren't able to give as much as you wanted to, or you're just feeling like you'd like to give more or give for the first time this drive, please do. You can do that at kpov.org, and right there, the splash page is the donation page. So thank you so much to all of our community for supporting what we do here on community radio, because after all, that's how we get it done. So also did on last week's archived program, which you can listen to up until midnight tonight, until this show hits for the next 7 days. You can hear all of the May astrology on last week's show. That takes you through the month of May in terms of the astrology. And you get to kind of see how the energy is going to flow for the entire month. So go back and listen to that if you need to hear about May's astrology again. Happy May Day, Beltane to those who celebrate these holidays that are represented out there in the universe. The solstice and the eclipse, the equinoxes are four cross-quarter points, and then the 4 points in between those points are the halfway points between those points. So there's 8 holidays really in terms of the astrological holidays. You can kind of call them the solstices, the equinoxes, and then these other cross-quarter holidays. So Beltane is a fire holiday. You light the fires and you decorate with flowers and you bring in in the fertility for the season. All of the gardens are awakened and covered and decorated, and the livestock is run through the smoke of the Beltane fire to increase their fertility for the year. So Taurus is where we are. The sun is moving through Taurus, and at 15 degrees, when the sun is traveling through Taurus there, or it wasn't at 15 degrees this year, but as the sun's moving through Taurus is when Beltane is happening. And so we have these Taurus themes, of course, which is all about planting and gardening and the earth and taking care of the earth, and fertility is another big Taurus theme. And so we are very much into Taurus season. We had the 2 weeks ago, we had the solar eclipse in Aries, and 2 weeks from the full moon on Friday, we're going to have the next new moon in Taurus. And so the new moon in Taurus season is coming kind of late. It's kind of like a backwards time, really, when the full moons in the sign come before the new moons in the sign. And so we get the big culmination moments, and then we kind of retreat back into the new moon. And so that is kind of how Taurus season it's working. It's coming in strong off of the bat with this full moon in Scorpio, which is the full moons are represented when the sun and the moon are across from each other in the zodiac. And so the moon will be at 15 of Scorpio, the sun will be at 15 of Taurus. So look in your birth chart, where is this happening for you, in what house? And this is going to be where the themes are going to come through for you this week. This is not just a full moon this week. This is a full moon in Scorpio, which is extra intense and extra emotional. And it's also an eclipse. And eclipses, been discussing for the last couple weeks about eclipses. We are in the portal right now. We are moving through eclipse season, which is a time that is very fated. It's a time when very destined things tend to move in and out of our life. Things can happen very quickly. Eclipses bring in fast-moving accelerator energy. We were talking about, Whitney and I were talking about the accelerator stones. And, be careful with those accelerator stones right now during eclipse season, because if you start putting your intentions out there for something to happen very quickly right now, chances are it probably will, because that is eclipse energy. It grabs onto something, it stretches the elastic way back, and then boom, releases, and there it goes. And so it's a time when we want to make sure that our own personal bow and arrow, which is our intentions, right? Our energetic bow and arrow, our intentions, we want to keep them very clear. We want to make sure that the energy and these slingshots and these arrows that we're shooting out into the world are following in tune with the things that we are trying to bring in and release from our life. Or we may be a little bit surprised with how quickly things get delivered, almost like don't make a wish unless you really want it. Wait, what's that phrase? You all know it. Don't wish for things that you get what you wish for. That's the one I'm talking about. You get what you wish for. That is such a beautiful eclipse mantra. And when you are speaking mantras, or meditative, phrases, or even when you're just talking to yourself and giving yourself a pep talk, you're trying to comfort yourself or give yourself confidence, in a moment, you talk to yourself, and that self-talk is so important to have a positive intention behind it. So we want to make sure when we're moving through mantras, when we're meditating right now during this eclipse phase, that our mind is very clear and our intention is very clear, because we might get what we wish for. And if that was a little off, maybe there was a little bit of confusion or a little bit of extra exaggeration, or, something that is maybe a non-benevolent expression, that we need to kind of stop and make sure that our intentions are very, very clear right now. Stacy Dredd, Galactic Ambassador here in the cosmic community, and I thank you so much for being a part of this community. If you need to get a hold of me, you can send me an email. You got any questions about your birth chart or finding your birth chart, or just any questions about the astrology comments, you can send me an email at thecosmiccommunity@kpov.org. I would love to hear from you. And I've been thinking about this, and so I'm just going to throw it out there and see what happens. I've been told recently by a very dear DJ friend, 444. Okay, so I'm on the right track. I got all the fours up here in the studio. So I've been told recently by a DJ friend that I say a lot. And those of you that listen to me probably know and have heard my use of the phrase So I would like to throw it out there that I am not trying to say any more or any less, but I do want to make sure that the words that are coming out of my mouth are efficient with what I'm trying to get across. And so it's brought something up for me, about words and air and making sure that the words come out. And I didn't even realize that I had been saying, that much. And I went back and listened, and, I heard it. And so anyways, I just want to make sure that my language is intentional, but I thought I would use it for fun, because sometimes it's important to take these things that, are like constructive criticisms, and not be like embarrassed about it, but embrace it. So I'm going to embrace it. And I'm going to offer to anybody out there right now listening to this program today, May 2nd, send me an email at thecosmiccommunity@kpov.org with how many times I have used the phrase during this broadcast today. And if the person is near, or the person that gets the nearest to it, because I go back and listen, so I'm going to keep track too, the person who gets nearest to the number of the times that I said during this broadcast today, I'm going to offer a free 15-minute birth chart reading too. And this is just totally to make this fun for me and to make it fun for you, and to say that I did something with this to make it extra constructive. So anybody out there who wants to count up the amount of times that I said during this broadcast, counting those last 3 times that I said it, send me an email with a number to thecosmiccommunity@kpov.org, and I am going to pick the person that's closest to the number, or the people who get it right. And if multiple people get it right, I'm going to do multiple birth chart readings. So there you go, throwing that out there. This week is a good week to throw things out there. As I was saying, my intention with doing that just then is to challenge, right? And to use these things that come to our awareness for positivity, and to continue to push things in the direction, the most benevolent direction, that I personally like them to go. So I have pulled up the chart for the full moon in Scorpio on May 5th. And I want to chat a little bit about Pluto. Pluto is the ruling planet of Scorpio. I'm going to talk about Pluto. I'm going to talk about Scorpio. And because we are going to talk about these two energies, we're going to fully understand what we are in for this closing out of the eclipse cycle and this full moon later this week. So Pluto is the ruling planet of Scorpio. Scorpio is the 8th sign of the zodiac. The 8th sign of the zodiac is the representation of death and rebirth. That's what Pluto represents, death, death and rebirth. Of course, we didn't even find Pluto until recently. So the traditional ruling planet of Scorpio, for those of you a little more like advanced in astrology and want to kind of, put things together a little bit more, the traditional ruling planet of Scorpio was Mars. So Scorpio was not really given a really great hand, but, that's just the way that we see these planets. Mars, Pluto, considered the malevolent planets. We have all the benevolence, and then we have a couple of malevolence, and I think Saturn can be kind of included in there too. They're just kind of the wet blankets, they're the ones that tend to bring challenges, cause issues. I mean, we're talking about energies that are necessary. We're talking about Mars being the go-getter energy, and if we never went out and got anything in life, then, that wouldn't be balanced either. So Mars energy is absolutely necessary. Pluto, we need fire. We need to burn things to the ground to allow new things to grow. The old growth trees fall over and rot and decay, which is all Plutonian stuff, to allow new life and new birth to take place in the forest. And that's the natural occurrence. Saturn, we need healthy boundaries. We need to be told no sometimes. And that is a Saturn characteristic that we come across. We run into Saturn like a brick wall sometimes, and it's not pleasant, but we do sometimes need to be told to slow down, to stop, be told no, So these malevolent planets, they offer up things that are very useful for us and things that are very, very necessary. And so, Scorpio was kind of always characterized as this deep, dark planet, very emotional. Scorpio is a water sign, so we've got a lot of deep, dark emotions when we're talking Scorpio. This is like deep, transformative energy. This is heavy. This is like Scorpio folks are the deep divers. They're the hypnotists, they're the ones that go deep down inside, find things, grab them, and bring them back up to the surface in order to have that death and that rebirth cycle to take place. This is very much, Scorpio is the sign of like mental health and mental illness. Scorpio can definitely be about other people's money. Also, this is about like inheritance, Scorpio, other people's money, money coming into that's not yours. So, you're getting the idea. Pluto also rules everything underground. This is like, mining and oil that comes from underground. This is like root systems and deep, dark places. This is like things waiting under the surface, the seeds actually waiting under the surface for that productive time to come for them, but Scorpio is usually, in October. So in October, we have all the seeds falling to the ground and they lay there dormant until about 6 months later when Taurus season comes around, and that time is right for them to ripen and to come into the world, bringing in these axes, right? We have the Scorpio-Taurus axes. They're across from each other in the zodiac. And so they always work together. All the signs that are across from each other, they work together, but they're almost complete opposites, but they still work together. So Pluto has just stationed retrograde. Pluto also just moved into the sign of Aquarius out of Capricorn, and this was a big thing. This was something that is going to color this entire year of 2023 and then 2024 when Pluto reaches the end of this retrograde, going to be back into Capricorn and then going to be moving into the sign of Aquarius for good. We don't get to see Pluto in every sign. Pluto takes 250 years to get around the zodiac. We only see Pluto through a few signs if we're lucky, 4, if we're really lucky, maybe 5, in our lifetime. So this Pluto in Aquarius is new energy. It's something we have never dealt with before. It's something new. And so we just popped out into this new phase. And now Pluto has gone retrograde, and we are going to be going back into Capricorn and truly closing out the cycle that Pluto made there. So with this full moon in Scorpio this week being ruled by this recently retrograded Pluto, this is going to bring some interesting, sudden endings. This is going to suddenly, potentially remove things from life, give you the opportunity to release things, because we all know what it feels like to have something forced out of our life, and it's not always great. Sometimes we can make it through that and see the positive, but a lot of times people, when they make the decisions themselves to do something, maybe learn the lesson a little deeper, things kind of come in a little different light when you make the decision yourself or when something gets forced upon you. But either way, this week is just about transformation. This whole eclipse cycle has happened with Pluto in a T-square to the nodes. And the nodes are at 3 degrees of Scorpio and 3 degrees of Taurus. Pluto is at just 0 degrees of Aquarius at this full moon. So they are just teed off, and all of the energy is shooting out like an arrow out into this newly retrograded Pluto, which is just still very much learning a new cycle and seeing something new, but also being flung into the past to take care of some things before truly being able to move forward. So very interesting energy to work with this week. I wanted to play Total Eclipse of the Heart, but I couldn't get it to work off of my little drive, but I got another song pulled up for the end of the show. But just know that this is the week for the eclipses to thin the veil. Scorpio is definitely a sensitive sign. If you feel as though the veil is thinned and you're really, retrogrades and eclipses, they bring about lots of energy. So if you're feeling all of this and you're extra awakened, extra open, feel like the veil is kind of thinned between the other worlds and you, then just know that that's part of this cycle. And we will be definitely in a new place by next week. I'll be back on Tuesday, and we'll be chatting a little more about the progression of May and about this Mercury retrograde, which is going to be stationing direct next week. So we are still well working within our Mercury retrograde. And I just wish you all the very, very best of the day and the week, and have a good full moon eclipse in Scorpio. And I will talk to you next week, Tuesday at 4:30. Peace. Thank you for listening to the Cosmic Community Podcast. More can be found at kpov.org/thecosmiccommunity.